Sometimes, it's not what you hear in the woods. It's what stops making sound that should terrify you. My cousin died in the Appalachian Mountains. They never found his body. Only his shoes, a small bloody notebook, and something carved into a tree. The word was run. This is not a ghost story. This is real, and it's just one of many disturbing things that have happened deep in those hills. If you're someone who thinks these stories are just old mountain myths, you haven't heard the real ones. You haven't heard what I've heard. These are 5 disturbing true tales from the Appalachian Mountains. And I warn you, after this, you may never hike again without looking over your shoulder. Before we start, if you're into true horror stories and real chilling experiences like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. I post terrifying tales like these every week. And I promise, the next one might just keep you up at night. Now, let's begin. It happened in 2016. A man named Aaron was hiking solo through the Great Smoky Mountains, a part of the southern Appalachian Range that stretches between North Carolina and Tennessee. He wasn't inexperienced. He'd done dozens of trails, often alone. He liked the peace and quiet, the escape. He checked in with park rangers, told them he'd be off-grid for 3 days, left his plan. Everything was done right, but on the second night, something went very wrong. Aaron's brother received a voicemail that just said 3 things. I'm not alone. They're watching me. And then a whisper, don't follow. No one could trace the call, but they found a general area using GPS records from his emergency beacon, which had stopped transmitting that night around 2:13 a.m. Search and rescue teams found his camp destroyed. His tent was slashed open from the inside. His gear was thrown in every direction. But here's what made it strange. No tracks, no blood, and the fire was still burning like he had just left. There was a single trail of footprints leading away, barefoot. They followed the tracks for about 200 feet, but then they just stopped. Not faded, not covered, just vanished. The only thing left was a rock, balanced perfectly on top of a tree stump. On that rock, someone had drawn a circle. Inside it was a crude face, just 2 hollow eyes and a smile, but no mouth. For the next 3 days, nothing. Then a ranger, a woman named Dana, radioed in. She was on patrol when she heard whistling in the trees. At first, she thought it was a bird, but it kept repeating the same short melody. For notes, she followed it about a mile off the trail, and that's when she found something horrifying. Aaron's backpack torn open, and next to it, a fresh pine branch had been stabbed into the dirt. On that branch, dangling like trophies, were little things. His socks, his ID, and a small recording device. The audio was corrupted, but a few parts were clear. You could hear Aaron breathing hard, running, then stopping, and finally whispering, I see them. They're not people. God, their faces. They're all wrong. Then screaming. Then silence. The FBI got involved, which is rare for missing persons in a national park. But the case was closed after a few weeks. No body, no leads. They called it misadventure. But locals say something different. People in that area, especially the older ones, talk about the Pale Watchers. Tall, silent figures that live deep in the woods. They don't hunt. They don't chase. They just watch. And once you've seen them, they never stop watching you. Now, this next one happened in West Virginia, near Monongahela National Forest. A man and his daughter were driving a back road to the mountains when their truck broke down. No signal, no lights except for their headlights. The dad got out to check under the hood. His daughter stayed inside. That's when she saw something in the rearview mirror. It was a shape low to the ground, crawling, thin, pale, and fast. She screamed. The dad looked up, flashlight in hand, just in time to see it dart into the trees. They got back inside and locked the doors. Then came the tapping. Soft, slow, rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap on the window behind her. She turned. Nothing there, but the tapping kept moving. Around the truck. One side, then the next. Then the rear window fogged up like someone was breathing on it, and a handprint appeared, except the fingers were too long. and there were 6 of them. They sat frozen until dawn. When the sun came up, everything stopped. The truck started without a problem, and when they drove off, the girl looked back one last time. She swore she saw 3 figures standing at the edge of the woods, watching. The Appalachian Mountains are full of beauty, rivers, trees, endless ridgelines. But under that surface is something older, something that doesn't want to be known. I've heard stories all my life, from hunters who never hunt alone anymore, from hikers who returned but were never quite the same, and from families who lost someone to forest and never got a goodbye. These are not just stories. And in the next parts, you'll hear things even stranger and even darker, because some of what lives in those woods was never human to begin with. There's a fire tower deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains, tucked in the woods about 8 miles from any paved road. It used to be used to spot forest fires in the summer, but these days it's just a place hikers visit to snap eerie photos. The ladder is old, the cabin is mostly rotten, and no one's officially supposed to go up there anymore. But 5 years ago, a small group of college students decided to camp near it. They were used to the woods. They weren't afraid. The first night, they heard noises, not animals, not footsteps, just voices, but not clear voices, just a whispering wind, like someone mumbling through a wall. They laughed it off. The second night, they climbed the tower after dark. One of them, Jacob, brought a notebook and said he wanted to write something poetic in it while they drank and watched the stars. But something changed in him that night. He sat on the floor of the tower with his back against the wall and just stared. His friends thought he was messing around, but when they called his name, he didn't respond. And when one of them touched his shoulder, he stood up and said in a low voice, "They're almost here." Then he jumped, just like that, without another word. He stepped off the edge of the tower and vanished into the trees below. They never found his body. Search and rescue teams found torn paper pages scattered near the base of the tower, soaked in dew and blood. The words weren't his handwriting anymore. They were scratchy, rushed, like done by a child or someone who had never held a pen. They read, "We live beneath. We listen. We answer when called." He opened the door. "He's ours now." One page had no writing, just a red handprint with 6 fingers. None of the other students were ever charged. There were no drugs, no alcohol in the system, and no motive. The story never made the news. It was kept quiet. But hikers still find scraps of paper near the tower, even now. Most of them are blank, but some have words on them that no one admits to writing. Now this next one comes from a retired forest ranger in North Carolina. His name was Eli, and he worked the trails for 22 years before quitting without explanation. He had seen bears, mountain lions, even wild dogs, but none of those scared him. What made him leave was something else. In his last season, he got a report of strange lights seen near an old mine shaft in a closed area of the park. Locals had reported seeing movement at night, lights coming up from the ground like fireflies. So he hiked out there with another ranger, Susan. They reached the site around sunset and set up camp nearby. They sat watching the mine entrance. Then, around midnight, the lights appeared. Blue-white orbs, floating slowly from the ground like smoke bubbles. Eli and Susan walked toward them, cameras in hand, tried to record what they saw. The lights moved like they were alive. They would rise, pause, drift side to side, and then slowly pull back toward the dark entrance of the mine. That's when they heard it. A voice, coming from inside. It was soft, feminine, and it said just 2 words. "Come down." Eli stopped. Susan didn't. She walked to the edge of the mine and called out. No reply. Then her flashlight blinked. Once, twice, gone. Eli grabbed her arm and told her to back away, but she didn't move. She just kept staring forward, mouth slightly open. When he finally pulled her back, she screamed not at him, but at something inside. "There are faces in there," she cried. "So many faces." They left immediately. But Susan was never the same after that. She had night terrors, stopped speaking for long stretches of time. And 2 months later, she disappeared while hiking alone near that same area. All they found was her flashlight, still on, and the camera from that night, it was recovered, but all it shows is static, except right at the end, one frame, just one, shows something, a figure, bent backward, head upside down, eyes open wider than natural, crouched just behind the mine opening. And if you look closely, the eyes are glowing, red. These are not isolated stories. There are too many, too consistent, too similar to be made up. People disappear in these woods every year. Some are found broken, confused, silent. Some are never found at all. And a few leave behind notes or recordings or whispers that hint at something darker than any animal. Something waiting, something watching. And it never seems to want attention, just access. If you're still here, there's more. They found the baby monitor still running. No power to the cabin, no batteries, no connection, but it was still making sound, just static and breathing. The place had been empty for over a year. The family was reported missing in late October. Mother, father, and their 10-month-old daughter. No break-in, no signs of struggle, no blood, no foul play, just gone. The porch light was still on, dinner still on the table, and the clock on the wall, frozen at 3:12 a.m. A forest ranger who responded to the call said he immediately felt something was wrong. Not just eerie, wrong. He said the air inside the cabin was heavy, like walking underwater. He noticed something strange. In the baby's room above the crib, someone had scratched something into the wood. Not carved, scratched, rough, aggressive. The word was SH. 3 months before the disappearance, the mother posted on a local forum asking about strange sounds outside their cabin at night. She said she and her husband would hear soft knocking on the walls between 2 and 3 a.m., always starting on one side and circling the house. When they looked outside, nothing. But their daughter's room would always be colder than the rest of the house, even when they turned the heat all the way up. She ended the post by asking if black leaves in summer were a bad sign. No one answered. A neighbor, miles down the valley, said he saw someone standing in the woods across from his window that same week. He said it was a child, barefoot, standing between trees. He only looked away for a second, but when he looked back, the figure was closer. Too close. He shut his blinds. And the knocking started the next night. Months later, a search dog picked up a trail. It led deep into the mountains, to a narrow cave beneath a collapsed tree. Inside, they found something strange. Not the bodies, not even remains, but children's toys neatly arranged, clean, unweathered, and a pile of broken wall clocks. All stopped at 3:12. The air smelled like sulfur and wet stone. The walls were covered in soot and something that looked like long scratch marks. But they weren't claw marks. They were thin, repetitive, like a single nail dragged over and over again. Someone mailed an anonymous package to the local sheriff's office a few months after the case went cold. Inside was a recording, an old cassette tape. No return address. No fingerprints. Just a label. Don't follow. The audio has never been released to public. But a source inside said it was the most disturbing thing he'd ever heard. He said you could hear wind, then footsteps, then the sound of a baby crying, followed by a soft voice whispering lullabies, except the lullabies were in reverse. And then a scream. Not human. Something wet, sharp, final. Some believe the family got lost in the woods and succumbed to the elements. But no one ever found footprints. Not in or out. And no animals took food from the house. Not even scavengers. Whatever happened, it wasn't normal. It wasn't human. And it didn't leave a trace, except for one thing. That baby monitor still playing breathing. Sometimes people forget that parts of the Appalachian Mountains are older than any map, older than any country. There are places that don't belong to us. Places that were never meant to be walked by people. The land remembers. And sometimes it responds. The old man said it first. Don't speak their names. That's how they hear you. He said it at a town hall meeting after a young boy went missing in 1987. He wasn't a relative, wasn't even local. But when they asked him how he knew what happened, He just stared out the window and said, "It wasn't the mountain that took him. It was the thing beneath." In the sheriff's log from 1963, there's an entry scratched out, page torn, ink bled, but you can still make out part of it. Screaming heard in the mine, no wind in the trees, they move without walking. Generations before, a preacher tried to bless the forest. He went in with crosses, candles, a group of 5. Only one came back. Mouth sewn shut with thread and blood. He couldn't speak again. They buried the others with no service, not because of respect, because their bodies came back wrong. In a high school yearbook from 1979, a photo shows 4 kids standing at the edge of a cave, all smiling. The cave is gone now. Collapsed, buried, vanished. But if you look at a reflection in one of the kids' sunglasses, there's a 5th figure. Not a kid, not anything human. Just pale, long arms, hollow face. It's standing in the trees, watching. The last page a journal found near Black Hollow Trail had only one sentence, written again and again until the paper ripped. The trees are listening. The trees are listening. The trees are listening. And then nothing. But the pen was still in the writer's hand when they found the body. No signs of trauma. Eyes wide open, mouth open wider, like something had crawled out. Or in 2003, a woman returned to her family's abandoned mountain cabin after 20 years. She found it the same. Dusty, cold, silent. But one room was locked. The nursery. She picked the lock. The air inside was warm, fresh. And on the rocking chair sat a child doll, eyes painted red, lips sewn shut. On the wall behind it, a single handprint in black soot, small, but with 6 fingers. She burned the place down that night, and 2 weeks later was found wandering the trail, without shoes, mumbling a lullaby, backwards. A hiker's camera found deep in the Cherokee National Forest showed 57 photos. Most of them were trees, fog, footsteps in mud. But the last 3, a cave entrance, a hand reaching out of the earth, a face, pale, almost human, but stretched too long, and smiling. No one ever claimed the camera. The warnings go back hundreds of years. Don't whistle at night. Don't answer your name if you hear it whispered. Don't bring iron into the woods. Don't speak about them. Don't speak about them. Don't. And yet people keep going. Campers, hikers, curious thrill seekers. And they keep disappearing, one by one, quietly. Their names fade. Their stories become warnings. Their faces show up in dreams of people they never knew. I won't pretend to know what's really in the Appalachian Mountains. Maybe it's just old legends. Maybe it's trauma we pass down like stories around the fire. Or maybe it's something else. Something that doesn't need belief. Only silence. Only watchers. The last piece of audio recovered from a missing hunter's body cam said this. It wasn't the dark that scared me. It was when the forest went silent, like it was listening. If you've made it this far, stay out of the woods. Don't answer the whispers. And above all else, don't speak their names.